Joe were there, Nixon.
Yeah, they lived in that house that Ethel did, and then Mom and I moved in with them for a while. And then later Ethel came to California.
Yeah. But I got them all scanned in. The lady in Texas, that's the great-granddaughter of Mr. Hames, I sent her an email today with the copy of both of these and a copy at the back.
She'll be pretty good.
I think so. I have not heard back. She is his great-granddaughter, Hames's great-granddaughter. And I believe her grandfather was, I think it was Kirby, but now I'm not real sure. I'd have to look back at some of her emails to know for sure. But I sent her a copy of both of these and told her, you know, where we got them, and that was my Uncle Bill. And you, Uncle Oral. Now, I know what I was going to ask. Is this a gun? Is that the long barrel of a gun? Look at the size of that barrel. That thing is the gun. Is that a gun pointing down? Is that the barrel of the gun hanging down there? What is that? I think it is.
Well, I don't think I noticed that before. But
yeah, but it looks like they've got a pistol hanging upside down, and that's the long barrel of it.
Well, I gotta go get my magnifying glass, because the last time I looked at it, I would have sworn he had the pistol in his hand.
Yeah, I think he does. Oh, but I think it's hanging down.
That looks to me like the crease of the door of the car, or whatever it is by it. No, it's not a car. Well, I gotta go get my glass deal.
Well, that's who these people were, and coincidentally, his first wife's name was Lula.
Really?
In the 1920 census.
She died short. Or
Lula?
Lula.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way Grandma is listed in the 1930 census, with him as wife. So they could never understand what that meant, and because they knew his wife had died years before, 10 years before. And so then when she heard from me, the pieces fell together that there was another wife, and they had never known about that. At least the people alive today didn't know about it. So then it made sense to them as to who everybody was.
I have another picture, if I ever run across it, and it's made on a hillside, and it's like a couple of the girls were up behind, and Mama and Mr. Hayes were sitting in a brush pile, like on the side of the hill. Somebody made their picture.
Oh, is that right?
And it's the same size as this.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the last time that I ever remember, well, I'll put it this way, I think the last time that I ever saw him, in my memory that is, me and Ethel, and Mama.
Yeah.
Ethel came over. She was having trouble with Joe, not Joe, Homer. He was drinking and having trouble with him, so she had left the house, and she's over, and anyway, whatever the deal was, I'm a little guy. I'm maybe 5 by that time. But Mama and Ethel and me had taken a walk someplace. And I remember this little old house, the sidewalk, the door opened right on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And when we got home, we opened the door, and of course you don't have a light to turn on, you got to go in and light this lamp. And as we got inside the door, Homer was in there hiding and waiting for us to come back, and he jumped on Mr. Hames' back.
Oh boy, oh
I don't know if Mr. Hames, if they'd ever even seen each other before or not.
Oh my.
But this is going on in the dark. They're fighting there on the floor, and till somebody got a lamp lit. And so, by that time, I think Mr. Hames had broken loose. He would be stronger than Homer.
Yeah.
But anyway, we stopped the fight, and Ethel led Homer out of that. But I think that's the last time I ever saw Mr. Hames, and he had just come to visit us and see us, was all.
I see. And they were no longer together, huh?
No.
That was back in Oklahoma or still in Texas?
That was Marlow.
Marlow, Oklahoma.
And it was cold, and when we got up there that night, Mom and the 2 girls went in the cabin. And he had a little weight on him there, didn't he?
Yeah. He died in 1944, February.
the year you were born.
Well, it would have been nice to go see the old man after I grew up.
But you were in the war. He was
When
gone
he
by
was
the
doing
time
the
you got out.
horseshoeing, I love to go down and pump the billows.
Yeah,
Let me see.
The blacksmith shop. That's a good
Oh.
picture.
That's him.
that's how I found his great-granddaughter. Through
Anyway,
that.
we arrived on the Texas prairie, and that night a northern blew in.
Oh boy.
Mom and the two girls was in one cabin. Me and my brother Carl was in another cabin, and there's cracks that wide in it. Carl slept on a cot on one side of the room. It was just about like from here over to there. And so Carl was sleeping over. I thought there was a stove in there, and he lit it.
Yeah.
Everybody had a gas stove.
Yeah.
Fumes, oh my lord! If it hadn't had the cracks,
Wonder
would
we
have probably
didn't die.
been.
Yeah. Yeah, if it had been airtight, you'd been gone. Yeah.
Anyway, we woke up that next morning and the snow was up to the top of the barbed wire fences and the drifts.
Mm.
Yeah, there's Kirby.
I think you told me that story before, and that cabin belonged to somebody at the church.
Her name was Mrs. Ward,
Ward, that's it.
and she had a Pontiac
Uh-huh.
coupe.
Uh-huh.
Damn on. I wonder if that was a girl or a boy.
I told the kids from Fresno a while back, the Stokel boys, I was talking about television sets. I said the first set that Bob had was called a Sonora. I asked them if they remembered what kind it was, and they said no. I said it was a Sonora. How do you remember that? I don't know.
Don't know. Don't know.
I've noticed in the last 6 or 8 months my memory on picking up words I want is not as good as it was. I may be slipping a little.
Yeah. Well, we all do that. And then whoever's in the room helps fill it in for us, right?
Or like yesterday, I'm walking through the door and that name came to mind, what I was trying to think of yesterday. But
For what?
what's the name of this big, it's not a Doberman, but it's a black dog and they're pretty nasty temperature.
A Rottweiler?
The Rottweiler.
Oh. They're
I
big
saw a
dogs.
picture of one and I couldn't recall
Yeah.
the name of it.
Yeah.
Tim and Cherie used to have one named Sinjin. Froze to death out in the backyard.
Yeah.
Tim had his broken leg.
That was a Rottweiler?
Anyway, from then on, the boys and their mini-skirted 1920s girlfriend, they drove the car and they all had great time. Mr. Hames let them have the car.
Take the car out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those girls in the 20s, the roaring 20s, yeah, they all had miniskirts, and as a 4-year-old, I noticed that. But they were as cute as they could be, and they had their hair chopped off at an angle here.
Bobbed, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? He had 2 babies that died. Mr. Hames did. There was Gillis that died under 2 years old, and then there was one named Thaddeus that died the same year it was born. And then he went on to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boys and a girl, Lena May. There was married to Doris, and her maiden name is Wallace. And there's a picture that someone else put up of
It
Doris.
doesn't say anything about his first wife, Anna.
No. Well, I'll have to look back again. I don't think so.
Now, Anna was his children's mother, though? Yeah.
Yeah, he had one son, Carl. And Anna's husband, Walter, she gave birth to 2 of his children and a little girl, Betty Lou and Jean McCallany. When George met her, she had those 2 children, and her husband had just been killed in the woods.
Oh. Doris. Doris's husband or Anna's?
Anna's husband, her first husband. Yeah. And Gene, her son now, is either dead or he's was in a home. He's about lost all his memory. A guy in Mossy Rock knows him real well.
Yeah.
And I knew Gene and Betty Lou. I went up to Washington then with George. We went up to visit Bill. Me and Mother hadn't seen Bill in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So Ruth was about 3 months old at that time. And so we'd been at Ivory and Tim's in Lancaster, and we'd only been there a little while. We was in I don't know if they rented the whole place or just half of it, but we had a 2-story house there in Lancaster, yellow.
Yeah.
And it was not crowded with houses all around, but it's probably closed. Anyway, that's where George and Anna came, and she was pregnant with Carl.
Ah.
And George talked Mama into, and he was driving a 1933 Ford sedan. And George talked Mother into, and Mom didn't like traveling.
No.
But he talked her into going back to Washington and, to see Bill and
Yeah.
Velma.
That was probably a very rare trip.
It's okay, picture.
Sure it is.
Funny gal.
I'm not
She
going
is just a
Isn't she
natural
fun?
comedian.
Yeah, she is. She's a fun girl. Well,
Yeah, I've been around the block
you
too
better
many
tell me what
times.
you're doing.
You don't have
Getting
to
old,
know
old,
everything.
old.
I do too. I have my eyes on you. Where's she going, John?
I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to put water in my
I don't know if I told you, but before I left the breakfast the other morning, little Kim, she made me promise I'd be back to ride on the float November the 11th.
Who?
Kim. Her name is Whitaker. Kim Whitaker.
In Bakersfield?
And she has got some Oriental blood. I don't know if it's Chinese or Japanese. I haven't quite got it figured out yet, but I think she's Japanese. But she's very pretty.
This on Veterans Day in Bakersfield?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I said, well, Kim, I never rode a float before. I'd like to watch them go by. Please, Al.
Oh, that'd be fun.
So I said, for you, yeah, I'll do that.
You make them hook you on there tight. Don't you get hurt.
They had me to their home, Kim and John. John Whitaker. He has a very good job as county, I believe it is, for the water.
Yeah.
So he drives around in a nice car and enforces the rules.
Then
What's happened?
here it was. I have a Marine that I know. He was in Vietnam, and he said, I didn't do what I did, and I can't tell, and I don't know what I know.
I like that.
He was in special, special forces kind of thing, and I didn't do what we didn't do what we did, and I can't tell you what I know, or something like that. I don't know. It's
Very
kind of
good.
a clever way of saying it, but
They have
yeah,
a program over in Bakersfield now called Hometown Heroes,
yeah,
and almost every guy that I've heard is on there is 88, 89, 90, something like that. They've all,
Yeah.
almost all of them was in action of some sort.
mm-hmm.
But,
Oh, Dad, Lucy.
it was a good feeling last Thursday. I've only been to one of those breakfasts before, 2 now, because
Yeah.
I'm always in Oregon, Washington, or somewhere when it's the last Thursday of every month.
Mm-hmm.
But when I left there the other morning, I just felt so good.
Yeah, it's good to have that connection.
Yeah, being with those
It
old
really
guys.
is, yeah.
Bunch of Okies, and I said there was a lost award if it had been all these Okies signing up.
Seriously, yeah.
But those ladies, they worked their pants off to put this on, put
Yeah.
these things on and make it all possible.
Yeah.
I found the CEO was out that week, and we visited a big confectionery show. And on the Friday then, he had to go back east, and so I was going to fly out on Saturday to the coast. And so I've got time to drive around, look around. So it's a beautiful area of Phoenix. And anyway, while I'm driving around, I found this gorgeous house, and got a red roof on it, high and through. And old Italian guys in the building business built it, and that was their builders. And it was a beautiful house inside. Oh, it was gorgeous, 2 stories. And I could buy that house for $95,000.
My goodness.
And it was a show house.
Yeah.
And it was real close to the points where we sometime when you're down there, go over to the Points for a dinner or whatever. It's up, sits up on a hill.
Yeah.
But I think there's a couple around, but be sure it's out on Van Buren. Is it Van Buren that goes all the way to Scottsdale? Well, just ask about the Points. Anyway, it's a beautiful place
Yeah.
to eat. You're